Hello, you guys. How are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? And welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. For those of you that are joining me on my YouTube channel, thank you so very much for being a part of the community. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your engagement. And thank you also for sharing. For those of you that are listening in on my podcast, Fundable by Design, I want to say thank you also for joining in on the conversation, for being a part of this community. And I hope that the information that I share with you is very valuable. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is really very important. And I think that is pretty prevalent, particularly for those of you that are looking to start your nonprofit organization. And we're going to talk about why most nonprofits fail before they ever get the funding to do the work. I'm going to say that again. Why most nonprofits fail before they ever get funding. And also, why so many passionate nonprofit leaders end up frustrated. Okay, frustrated. Now, for those of you that are new to me, my name is Jennifer. I am a nonprofit expert. 40 years in May, 40 years of doing this work in the nonprofit space in May. I am a professional fundraiser. I am a grant writer. I also am a nonprofit strategist. I teach people how to start their nonprofit organizations being designed to bring in the money, right? The money is never the problem. Your organizations that are struggling with bringing in the resources, getting donors, getting funding, getting grants, getting the other streams of revenue. When I say other streams of revenue, you have 16 streams of revenue. All right. You have 16 streams of revenue. So for those organizations that are struggling to bring in the money is a symptom of a much deeper problem. Okay. The money is a fruit. The money is a fruit. Jen, we don't have any money. That's a fruit. At the root of that problem is, Jen, we don't have a structure to raise the money. Jen, we don't have a plan to raise the money. Jen, we don't know how to raise the money, right? So I want to talk about something that many of you need to hear. This is a truth that many of you as nonprofit leaders need to hear. All right? Many nonprofit leaders believe that their biggest problem is that they simply haven't found the right grant or the right donors. Okay? They assume the struggle is about getting access to funding. Right, Jen, I can't get access to funding. I can't get access to donors. I can't get access to grants. I can't get access to sponsors. I can't get access to people who would and could support this work. So many of you that assume that your struggle is because of access to funding. But I want to tell you about a reality, okay? In reality, the problem usually appears much earlier in the life of the organization. All right. The reality is the problem that you are currently experiencing in terms of having access to funding, this appears much earlier in the life of the organization. Let me explain it. The challenge is not just money. The challenge is not just money. The challenge is how the organization was started in the first place. I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. Many of you are not even thinking about, could the challenge be how I started the organization? Could it not be the money? It's not the money. Money is not your challenge because you have 15 streams of revenue. The challenge is how you started the organization in the first place. And to understand that, we have to understand, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you think money is your challenge? Because you don't have any? Listen, having been in this field for 40 years, I know for a fact, having worked with thousands of organizational leaders nationally and internationally, most of you are not intentionally making mistakes. You are following guidance that you found online, and you're piecing together advice from articles, from videos, from AI tools, from social media, right? So you're taking little bits and pieces from here and there, and you're trying to make it work. You're trying to put it together. And truth be told, most of you have never worked inside of a nonprofit organization. So you do not yet know what a fully functioning nonprofit actually looks like. So then you start with information that seems accessible, right? You went to Cousin Google, you went to Cousin Chat, you went to YouTube University, you went to all these different groups. And so you got all this information that seems accessible. But then that information is what is leading you down the wrong path. Can I just tell y'all the truth? Can I tell you the truth? That you all are trying to piece together a whole organization. And many of you are doing it out of order, but you don't know that. This is where it began. All right. This is where the misunderstandings begin. Again, for those of you that are new to me, my name is Jennifer. I am a nonprofit expert. I teach people how to start their nonprofit organizations for funding. Okay. I am a fundraiser. I am a grant writer. I am a master nonprofit strategist. And what I know is that if you type in a search engine, if you type into a search engine, how do I start a nonprofit? The answer that you will see will look something like this. It'll say, choose a name, file your incorporation paperwork, apply for your EIN, file for your 501c3 status, create the bylaws. It may say get an email address. It may say form a board. And while those steps are not wrong, can I tell you that they're not complete? Can I tell you that many of you are struggling because you are following the checklist of a search engine and it's giving you incomplete information? That search engine is describing how to create a legal entity, not how to build a sustainable organization. I'm going to say that again. That search engine is describing how to create a legal entity. Now you've got your 501c3. Now you've got an EIN. Now you've got a board. But that is not building a sustainable organization. Listen, I need you all to understand the truth. And how do we know it's the truth? Because now you started your organization. You know there's money. You know that there are donors. You know that there are grants. You know that there's funders. You know there are partners. You know that there are sponsors. You know that there are opportunities to generate money, but you can't get it. You can't figure it out. Why is that? Why is that you can't figure it out? Because what you have been given is incomplete. Incomplete information. Now you're stuck. Now you can't find board members. Have you ever considered that the issue is that you started it without the right or the complete information? Listen, search engines and quick online guides, they prioritize simple step-by-step answers. I'm going to say that again. When you type in, how do I start a nonprofit? That search engine creates simple step-by-step guides, answers. because these are easier to summarize. I want you to hear me now. You all that are typing into the search engine, how do I start a nonprofit? It's summarizing information for you. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is all I have to do. And now it's far easier to explain in that search engine of the step-by-step answer. That's only a summary, right? It's only a summary. But the search engine is able to explain to you in that summary of how to file the paperwork than it is to explain how do I build an organization that's sustainable. It's not telling you how to do that. And many of you now have taken the advice of this search engine that has prioritized simple answers, but not complete answers. That's why you guys are struggling. That's why you're struggling. That's why, Jen, we can't find funding. Jen, we can't find donors. Jen, I'm funding everything out of my pocket. Jen, I don't know what to do next. Jen, I don't know, right? Why? Because when you searched, it did not give you the detail. And you don't know. It's not explaining to you how do you build up your financial infrastructure, your fundraising capacity, your program evaluation, your leadership structure. It's not telling you about operational strategy or the governance systems or even how to manage your budgeting or your financial pictures or even how to project how much money you need to raise. It's not covering any of that. And those are the areas that is going to cause your organization to have the capacity, to have the ability, and the success of raising money. Everything that you need to raise money has not been covered in that search engine. You asked, how do I start a nonprofit? It told you how to create a legal entity. It did not tell you how do I run, how do I fund, how do I grow the resources to start the organization. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So what happens is that you walk away believing that starting a nonprofit means filing the paperwork. Jen, I got my 501c3. I need a grant. Jen, I got my 501c3, but I don't know what to do next. Jen, I got my 501c3, but I can't find donors. Jen, I got my 501c3, but I'm paying for everything out of my pocket. Jen, I got my 501c3, but now I'm stuck. Jen, I got my 501c3 and funding is my biggest issue. But you know that there is funding. But that search engine that you relied on did not give you the detail. The paperwork is just paperwork. It's not a structure. It's not an organization. It's not an organization. It's a piece of paper. And truth be told, the work of building the organization happens before you fill out that paperwork. But see, it didn't tell you that. It didn't tell you that. Why? Which is why many of you are like, well, should I fill out my paperwork first or should I fundraise? Should I do my program first or should I do this? Listen, there is one way that's in full sequence. But because you relied on the search engine, because of your passion, right? Because of your passion to rush to do the program, many of you begin this wonderful work because you are emotionally motivated, right? You are emotionally motivated. No experience running a nonprofit, no knowledge about how to fund the nonprofit, no idea of where money comes from to keep the doors open or the program going. None of that. You are driven purely by your motivation, your emotion to start the program. Why? Because you see suffering. You see the injustice. You see a need. And you want to respond quickly. Nothing wrong with that. So now your passion to respond to the needs quickly creates this sense of urgency. Right? I got to fill out my paperwork, Jen. I got to fill out my paperwork so I can start doing my program. And once I start doing my program, Jen, I can get donors. Once I start doing my program, Jen, I can get grants. I just need to do something right now. I just need to do something right now, Jen. I'm so emotional. I want to help so badly. I need to do something. And that urgency leads to a common pattern that many of you are facing. You got your paperwork, you started the program, and now you're paying for everything out of your pocket. Got your paperwork, put your mother, your brother, your dog, your cat, your fish on your board. You don't know what the board's supposed to do. The board doesn't know what they're supposed to do. Now you've got an inactive board. And because you did not put together a fundraising strategy, now you're paying for everything out of your pocket. Now you don't have enough money to grow. You don't have enough money to scale. And after a while, you now have to cut back on the program or quietly close the organization. You went straight from this is the paperwork, let me run my program. You didn't even design your program. You just started doing what you wanted to do, right? You started doing a program because it was important to you. You did not build organizational structure. You went straight to program. You began to do the work. Now we don't have a budget. We don't have financials. We don't have revenue coming in. We don't know what our expenses are, our regular, we don't have any of that done. We don't have a fundraising plan. We don't have a fundraising strategy. We don't even have a strategic plan. Jen, I don't even have working board members. All of the problems that you are experiencing is because you assumed or implied or told that the paperwork was the beginning of the organization. Filing the paperwork feels like progress. I got my paperwork, Jen. I got my 501c3. It feels like the organization now exists. Jen, I got my 501c3. We're doing our program. Jen, I got my 501c3. We're doing our program, Jen. This is who we're serving. This is what we're doing. But in reality, that paperwork is only one small step to your organization's ability to raise money to pay for that program. But again, that's not what the search engine told you. You all are running this organization based on what a search engine summarized for you, and you're wondering why you're stuck. You might assume that funding will come later, right? You might assume once I start my program, funding will come later because somebody said, start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. Start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. So now you rush to get the paperwork because you think starting the nonprofit means filing the paperwork, and that's not true. But now you're having difficulty getting the grant. You're thinking once I get my paperwork, once I start my program, funding will just naturally come. Once the organization begins operating, then I can get funding, then I can get donors, then I can get sponsors. And this belief comes from three places. Are y'all ready for this? This belief comes from three places. The first place it comes from is that many of you hear about nonprofits receiving grants or donations, right? You hear, oh my gosh, there was $1 million grant. Oh my gosh, there was a $250,000 grant. So you hear about nonprofits receiving these large grants amounts. And these stories make it seem like funding is given by grants. You got these people out here who are selling grant services. You want a grant? I can get you a grant. You want a grant? I'm a grant writer. And so you think, oh my gosh, grants is going to be the primary source of funding. And that's not true. The second source of this misinformation is that there is a growing industry of advice online focused on grant writing. There is a growing industry of advice online focused on grant writing. And so you will encounter in all these groups, right? People getting in your inbox, apply for a grant. You should write a grant. Learn how to write a grant. You should find funding opportunities. Get a grant. And while grant writing is an important skill, these messages will give the impression that funding is mainly about applications rather than organizational readiness. I'm going to say that again for the people in the bushes. These messages give the impression that funding is mainly about applications rather than organizational readiness. Thirdly, many of you assume that because your cause is meaningful, that people will automatically want to support it. But your funders, those donors, the grant funders, the sponsors, the contributors, they don't invest in good intentions only. Did you hear what I said? Which is why many of you are struggling. You're wanting people to connect with your good intentions, your passion. That's not what they're giving the money to. They are investing in organizations that can demonstrate the ability to deliver results, not activities. And many of you don't know the difference. Listen, these assumptions is what's causing many of you to struggle. And then you create a sequence of starting your nonprofit. You create a sequence of starting your nonprofit based on these errors of assumption, right? So you will believe, I want to help people. I should start a nonprofit because I heard that if I start a nonprofit, that's easier to get a grant. It's easier to get funding. So let me start a nonprofit. And starting the nonprofit means filing the paperwork because that's what you rush to do. And then once the nonprofit exists, once I got my paperwork, I can apply for grants. And then once the grant comes, I can then grow the program. Am I right? Those are your assumptions. And they're wrong. That's not the right assumption. If that were the right assumption, why are so many of you struggling with getting funding? If that were the right assumption, why are so many of you paying for this thing out of your pocket? Let me tell you what the real sequence should look like. Are y'all ready? Let me tell you what the real sequence should look like. A nonprofit is not a program. That's one. A nonprofit is not a program. That's one. I'm going to say it one more time. A nonprofit is not a program. A nonprofit is created to benefit the community. The nonprofit is not created to do a program that you're passionate about. So that means what? Number one is you got to understand a community need. Your donors, your funders, your partners, your volunteers, your board members, they come from the community. So you've got to be able to express, to educate, to inform them about a community need that you would like them from the community to help you solve. It's not, this is my program, this is what I'm passionate about. I started my nonprofit because of what happened to me, and because of what happened to me, I want to help people like me. No, you understand what the community need is, and you know how to solve the problem. You know how to reach solution for the need, not do a program. So that then means what? You are designing a program that addresses a need, not a designing a program because of what's passionate to you, or because of what happened to you, or because of what you want to do. No, that's not how it does. That's not how it works. And then you build the governance and the leadership structure to help you solve the problem. Then you develop the financial plan, the fundraising strategy so that you have the money to help you to address the problem. And then you create operational systems. That's your marketing, that's your branding, that's your communications, that's your fundraising strategies, that's your donor cultivation, donor acquisition. Why? These operating systems work intentionally to bring in the money. And then you create the legal entities to support the work. Now, listen, I get it. I get it. I get it. Jen, I want to do this program. Jen, I want to do this program. But I am going to tell you flat out that until you take the time to put together the organization, it's not going to work. I know y'all are busy. I know y'all are busy. You are busy. You got a lot of things going on, right? You got a lot of things going on. Your time is divided in a lot of places. And your heart is to help people. But if that organization is not structured, it, it's not going to work. You have the legal entity, you got the paperwork, but you've got to put together the operational foundations. Now, that's the part that nobody wants to do. Jen, I don't have a board. Jen, I don't have a fundraising plan. Jen, I don't have time to do the communications. Jen, I'm too busy. And this is why many of you find yourselves struggling to raise money. I say this every day. I say this every day. And it frustrates me because many of you have amazing programs. And many of you are trying to compare yourself to organizations that's getting funding, grants, right? Well, they got a grant. Well, they got a grant. How come I can't get a grant? They have a grant. They were able to get a grant. How come I haven't gotten a grant? Could it be that they were able to show the grant funder more than your passion? Could it be that they were able to put together a reasonable budget, financials with revenue sources coming in, not relying only on a grant? Listen, it's not like the funder dislikes your mission. That's not it. That's not it. It's that the organization has not yet demonstrated the capacity required to manage resources. Grants can't be your only stream of revenue. It can't be. You don't want it to be. And many of you are too busy to put the infrastructure together, right? It's overlooked. Oh, I'll do the board later. I'll put the fundraising strategy together later. I'll do the communications later. I'll do the donor acquisition later. I'll do the the managing of my communicating later. I'll do all of that stuff later. I just don't have time for that, Jen. I don't have the time for that. I want to do the exciting work. I want to do the work of helping the people. I want to do the work of being in the program and being face to face. That's the work, Jen, that I'm passionate about doing. But let me tell you something. If you are not willing, if you are not ready, if you're not interested in putting the infrastructure together, you're going to be paying for that program out of your pocket. There is no other way around that. And when you searched online, how do I start a nonprofit? That search engine did not go into the details of you're going to need some financials. You're going to need a donor management system. You're going to need to know how to budget and forecast revenue. You're going to need to have a fundraising plan. You're going to have to be able to evaluate your program. Let me say this. These infrastructure systems are not visible to the public in the same way that the programs are. The programs are visible to the public. But those invisible systems are essential to sustaining your mission. Without them, even the most passionate organization is not stable. It's not stable. Now you're having to put off doing your program. Now you're having to cancel the program altogether. Now you're having to reduce, right? Or possibly even change your mission. Why? Because your infrastructure to generate the revenue on a consistent basis was not put in place. Why was it not put in place? I didn't know it needed to be put in place, Jen, or I don't have time to put that thing in place. But that's what the donors and the funders are looking for. Signs that the organization can manage resources, money responsibly. And when your infrastructure is missing, it's hard to build. You guys are facing that right now. It's hard to build. And what's the personal cost to you? When you started without infrastructure, because you were ready to start, right? Jen, I got my paperwork. Jen, I got my 501c3. Jen, I got my EIN. I put this piece of board together. And now you, as the founder, begin to absorb all of the responsibility, the funding responsibility. You're doing everything. You're running the program. You're having to fundraise. You're having to do the CRM. You're having to learn how to write grants. You're having to do all the things, but what you want to do. My thing is, I just want to run a program. That's it. I just want to run a program, and I just want there to be money to run the program. And because the program has already begun, you feel responsible to keep it going. And so if the funding doesn't arrive quickly, you begin to pay for those expenses out of your own pocket. And over time, that leads to financial strain, that leads to exhaustion, that leads to frustration. And then many of you feel discouraged and wonder why. Why am I not gaining any traction? Why am I not raising any money? Why are we not getting donations? Why don't we have grants? And the problem is not the passion. The problem is your organization was never given the structure to support it. Listen, if you are listening to me, and if you recognize any parts of what I've said on your journey, you're not alone. Out of 100, 87 of you begin this way. You're motivated by your passion, your compassion. And you're trying to navigate a very complex sector without guidance. You're just like pulled in so many different directions. And the goal for me is not to criticize. The goal is to bring clarity so that you can move forward with a stronger foundation. Because once the infrastructure is in place, then the mission becomes easier to sustain. But that's the part that nobody wants to put together. That's the part that nobody wants to take the time to do. Why? Because you're more driven by the program, my passion, the work. I want to do the work. I get it. But without the fundraising strategy, without the budget, without the where does the money come from, you can't go forward. You're going to be stuck. Money is not why you're stuck. You did not build the infrastructure of the organization to carry the organization, to generate the money, to raise the resources, to identify, to clarify, to communicate with the community that your program is needed. Listen, at some point, you've got to think about, I've got to shift from simply starting an organization to building an organization that's capable of supporting the long-term work. Let me say that again. For many of you, you're going to have to shift from simply having a nonprofit organization to building the infrastructure of the organization that is capable, that is designed to support the long-term work. That means you got to take the time to develop a clear understanding of what is the problem that you are addressing. The program that is designed around real community needs, a structure that provides accountability, financial systems that support sustainability. And you've got to put together the strategies that engage supporters. If you're just waiting on a grant, I'm not doing anything, Jen. I'm just waiting on a grant. I'm just waiting on a grant, Jen. We don't have any money coming in. We don't have any fun. We don't have any fun. Now you got 16 streams of revenue, but I'm just waiting on a grant, Jen. I'm just waiting on a grant. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to put together the other fundraising strategies. I'm just waiting on a grant. That's not how it's supposed to be. And the truth is this, can y'all handle the truth? That once these elements are in place, once your infrastructure is in place, once your organizational systems that are designed to generate the revenue to fund that program, now the organization becomes a tool that supports the mission. I'm going to say that again. The organization now becomes a tool that supports the mission, supports the ability, your capacity to deliver that program. The organization and the program are two different things. The program is an expense. Without the tool of the organization to generate the resources, that program doesn't have enough money to operate. It can't work without the money. The program is nothing but an expense. The organization is the tool that generates the money to pay the expense. And until you guys get that, your organization is going to be fragile. You're going to be struggling to survive. Money is not your problem. Listen, I'm telling you the truth. And when you recognize that your organization needs either a stronger infrastructure or you need to have one put in place, then that's what we do. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. But without doing it, without putting together the fundraising strategies, the financial pictures, right? Your donor acquisition, donor cultivation systems, without your marketing, without your branding, without reaching into your community to show and why this organization is needed, without that, because your money comes from the community, without your work in that effort, that program is going to be funded by you from now until you get tired of paying for it. That's going to be the way it is. There's no gray. There's no gray. Listen, I have created ways for you to get this done. I got a 3-day summit coming up. I got a 3-day summit coming up taking place in Houston, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. And during these 3 days, we are going to focus on helping you understand and put together to structure and sustain your organization. This is not going to be about, you know, inspiration. This is not going to be about a whole bunch of, vague concepts. No, we're putting together your organizational structure. And if you are ready to begin putting your organization's infrastructure together, those 3 days is an option for you. All right, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the wonderful thing is this, we start before then. As soon as you register, we start putting your organization together. Many of you started with the paperwork. That's not organization. Many of you started doing your program. That's not organization. You did not put the tool, which is the organizational structure. It is the tool that generates the money to pay for the expenses of that program. All right? 3 days, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. All right? If you want information about how to register for those 3 days, and again, we get started as soon as you register. All right? Before we get there, before we get to Houston, you are already working with me to ensure that your organization is being put together properly so that when we come together, we're not brainstorming. All right? We're organizing, we're systematizing so that when we come together in May, we're not brainstorming. We're putting the pieces in place. Do this first, do this second, do this. We're putting it in the right sequence so that it operates as it should to generate the resources to fund the organization. The IRS says and expects you to have funding projections for the next 3 to 4 years. Did you hear what I said? That when you got that 501c3, it says that you have the projections and the plan to bring money into the organization for the next 3 to 4 years. That means you have the plan, you have the structure, you have the systems to do it. You're not, Jen, I started my nonprofit and funding is my biggest issue. No. All right. And if you are ready to begin putting your infrastructure together now, within the next 30 days, my team and I can completely assess your organization and help you put your entire organizational infrastructure together. We can do it for you. Okay? Within the next 30 days, we can put that infrastructure together for you. Now, let me say this. The goal is for your organization to be in place as a functioning tool so that you are able to generate revenue for now through the end of the year and into next year. The 501c3 paperwork says that you have a plan and a strategy and a projection of how to raise money for the next 3 to 4 years. That's not a hope. That's not a wish. That is a system. That is a structure. That is a process. That is a plan. That is, I know how to. I know how to generate the money. Now, if you want help, If you want my team to do it for you, you want help, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. You want my team to do it for you, we only need 30 days. All right. I've got a work with Jen assessment, and that's at bit.ly/work with JY. bit.ly/work with JY. And I'm hoping to identify those organizations that say, Jen, I'm ready to grow my organization. Now, if you're too busy doing too many other things that you just can't focus on growing your organization, and if your goal was simply to start a nonprofit because you thought that by being a nonprofit, you could get a grant, and you realize that that's not quite the case, I want you to consider the goal of building an organization that can support its mission for years to come. That's what your organization is designed to do. Your organization is designed to support the mission financially. Many of you didn't put that together, and many of you are resisting to put it together. Why? Because you don't have the time. It takes too much time. I'm too busy. I get it. My team and I can do it for you. My team and I can do that for you. All right? Go to bit.ly/work with JY, and let's have a conversation about where you, and that's only for those of you that say, Jen, over the next 30 days, I'm ready to put my organization together. And what's the cost of not putting your organization together? What is the cost of not putting your organization together? The cost is this. One, you're paying for everything out of your pocket. Two, you're missing out on key funding opportunities. Three, now you're burnt out. And now you spent money that you can't get back. Four, now you've lost credibility with your community. You've wasted time. According to chat, many of you are missing out on opportunities of funding anywhere between $75,000 to $300,000 a year. Why? Because you didn't put the organization together. No, we don't have a budget. No, Jen, we don't have a fundraising plan. No, Jen, we don't have any money coming in. We're just waiting on grants. Jen, I'm funding everything out of my pocket. Jen, we don't have a board. We don't have a board, Jen. I'm doing everything by myself. And those are the very things that the funder looks at to determine who's going to get the money. Now, listen, I work with a lot of organizations. And those organizations that are led by people who are not just passionate about the work, but are committed to the mission being accomplished. They're not just interested in starting a nonprofit. They want to run an organization that's sustainable. They want to be able to grow and scale the work so that they can hire a team, so that they cannot have to be the sole supporter and provider of the organization. They see that their organization is an asset to the community and not their own personal pet project. Out of 100 nonprofits, 87 of you are going to struggle. Needlessly. But without the infrastructure, without the systems that are in place to make the tool of your organization work properly, all it can do is struggle. The tool doesn't work. The organization is not set up. The organization is not set up to generate the revenue to pay for that program. That's why you're struggling. And the paperwork is not an organization. It's paperwork. All right? Listen, I want to say thank you all for joining. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I hope that I've been clear. I hope that something that I have said has been clarifying. I hope that you understand that you did not start a program. You started an organization that is designed to benefit your community. And when your community understands the benefit, that's when they support it financially. And not just that you benefit the community, but that you are structurally strong to invest in. All right. I'm going to close with this. Money is not your problem. Money is not your problem. Money's a fruit. At the root of your money problem is, Jen, we don't have a plan to raise money. Jen, we don't know how to raise money. And Jen, that has not been our priority. Our priority has been a program that is nothing but an expense. The program is nothing but an expense. And until the organization, which is not the program, until the organization is set up to operate properly as a tool to generate the revenue to pay for this expense of a program, you're going to be paying for this program out of your own pocket. All right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for those of you that hung in there to the end. All right? I am here as your nonprofit expert, not just to tell you what to do, but to explain to you the whole concept of why many of you are stuck and to tell you how to get unstuck, right? I can do it with you or I can do it for you. And the truth is this: if you could have done it yourself, by now you would have. If you need help and when you're ready for help, say, Jen, I'm ready for help. I'm ready to get my organization, the tool of my organization, working properly, the way that it's designed to work, to generate the revenue, to do the work that's going to accomplish our mission. I am Jennifer, your nonprofit expert. I will see you all next time. Thank you for listening.